Good evening, friends. Very happy to join you all for this virtual meeting of our heritage group today. And the topic for today is the splendid Rayalaseema temples. Rayalaseema comprises of the districts of Kurnool, Kadapa, Anandpur, Chittoor. All these districts of Andhra Pradesh constitute the region known as Rayalaseema. Rayalaseema gets the name as Rayalaseema because that was considered as a great place by the Rayas of Vijayanagar. Andhra as a state or as a country in that time was flourishing. It had a great historical background and there were great rulers of that region who ruled like Satavahanas, Ikshwakus, Vishnukundins, starting from 3rd century BC to 7th century Common Era. The greatest Buddhist monuments of Amaravati and so many other rare artifacts pertaining to this of the Satavahanas and Ikshwakus and Vishnukundins are still there in plenty in Andhra Pradesh. The barren landscape or the rain shadow region of the Eastern Ghats of Nalamalai range is what is Rayalaseema. This rose to importance only after the 14th century under the Vijayanagar kings. And Vijayanagar kings had developed this area to a very great extent and they called it as Rayalaseema. Seema is a place which is considered to be very, very important. Vijayanagar, as such, it started in Hampi, but the entire Vijayanagar kingdom was spread throughout the Tamil country also. The main approach to the Tamil country from where they got all the food grains and every other things was through only Rayalaseema. And this neglected barren land was developed by the Vijayanagar kings under the 14th century onwards as a connecting place between the Tamil country and Hampi, their capital city. So Rayalaseema rose to importance under the Vijayanagar in the 14th century. This was a neglected land and two reasons for them to, as I said earlier, to get transportation of materials between these two different countries, Tamil country and the Telugu country. Next thing is that Rayalaseema was rich in minerals. The biggest diamonds were available from this area. And the diamond trade took a great turn during this time of Vijayanagar. And that is why they developed this range of Rayalaseema. Rayalaseema consists of many pilgrimage centers like Tirumala, Sri Kalahasti, Ahobilam, Sri Shailam, and many other temples are located in this region, which is well known. And for thousands of years, all these temples were under worship, are still continuing to be under worship. So they are very, very important temples which are located in this region of Rayalaseema. Even the Chalukyans had occupied this area for some time. They had come from Badami and they had taken a part of this, the last end of the northern end of the Rayalaseema, beyond the Kurnool river of Tungabhadra. They had created a beautiful place for them and they built the wonderful temples of Navabrahma there in the 9th century. These pilgrim centers are prominent only after Vijayanagar rule, who developed these places, and the Sima region came into prominence with their Dandanayakas administering from Kurnool, Tadipatri, Lepakshi, Penukonda, Adoni, and Chandragiri. All these places were the capitals for these small kingdoms who were under the Vijayanagar, and that was administered by the Dandanayakas for the Vijayanagar kingdom. They have to mute, somebody has to mute it. Somebody has muted. The presence of one of the only unique lingam at the southern tip of the Rayalaseema area is in Gudimallam. This is the only one that we can boast of in the great Indian tradition that flourished in this region from 3rd century BC. The Parashurameswara temple at Gudimallam is located about 15 kilometers from Tirupati on the banks of river Swarnamukhi. This old temple, built during 3rd century BC, was a brick structure in the early days and was rebuilt as a stone structure by Danti Vikramavarman, the Pallava king, in 845 CE. Later, this temple had been developed by Vikrama Chola, and he rebuilt the entire temple as a granite structure with a Gajaprishta Vimanam in 1127 CE. The Vimana and the Garbhagriha stands still today as built by the Vikrama Chola. Geeta, Jaykumar, you will have to mute it. The present brick structure of the Vimana and the Mahamandapam were all introduced by the Vijayanagar kings in the 16th century. Normally, all the Shiva temples have the facing towards east, and the entrance was always through the east. Here, in this particular temple, when the Vijayanagar renovations had taken place, they had closed the eastern entrance and made the entrance through the south. And a small Nandi was placed there inside the Mandapam, and the eastern entrance was totally closed and a window was placed there. And this was the introduction done in the 16th century by the Vijayanagar kings of that era. The Dakshinamurti on the southern costa of this temple is the only surviving Chola sculpture we see today in this Gudimallam temple. This is the Parshurameswar Linga in the sanctum. Is the earliest surviving emblem of the Shiva cult in South India. The Linga, Shiva worship as Linga, was first started in South India, and this is the first ever emblem of Shiva as Linga form found here. The lingam is 5.5 feet tall from the base of the floor of the sanctum, and it's almost, and the sanctum is located today at least about 10 feet below the present ground level. Even during the Chola times, when this temple was built, the lingam was located 10 feet below the ground level. So this was a different type of a temple where people have to walk down the steps, go down to the sanctum and do their prayers there. A low stone railing is enclosing the lingam, which is a square enclosure around the lingam, and these are decorated with flowers. If you could, it's closely associated with the railings that we have seen it in Sanchi and other places.
Guru, can I interrupt? You have to share your screen there, Guru. You have to share your screen.
I've shared it. No?
I'm not able to see it. We are not able to see it. You have to share your screen, and then only we'll be able to see it.
1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Then I'll have
That
to
is,
get back and come back.
no, that is, okay.
Share screen, I've given it. Is that?
We can't see it. Can't see it.
Are
Share
you?
screen is. இப்பதான் வந்திருக்கு. இப்பதான் வந்திருக்குது.
Oh.
Guru, இப்பதான் வந்திருக்குது. இதுக்கு முன்னாடி வரல. Okay, you carry on, Guru. No problem. We started it. Okay.
1 minute, I'll come back.
No, we can see it now.
Yeah, 1 minute. The lingam in the sanctum is the earliest surviving emblem of the Shiva cult in South India. The lingam is 5.5 feet tall from the base, and the floor of the sanctum is almost 10 feet below the present ground level. And this ground level was below even at the time of the Vikrama Chola when he built the Gajaprishta Vimanam around this temple. There's a small, low stone railing around the lingam, which is square in shape, and these are decorated with flowers and floral designs. It's very clear that this lingam was meant for worship as Shiva, and that has been maintained till today. The lingam looks like this. A part of the shaft of the lingam is octagonal. It has got 8 faces, fluted faces, 8 faces. And the dome on the top is pronounced with grooves that reproduces the realistic head of a male sexual organ. The fascinating part of this linga and the figure carved in it almost in full relief of the shaft. Look at that lingam. You find the linga totally, it represents the erect male phallic representation, and that figure in the center of that is represented as Shiva there. He's standing on top of an Apasmara Purusha. The figure that's been depicted there, it depicts that of a youth, a young man, having a water pot in one hand and a slaughtered goat in his other hand. And in that hand, he also holds a parasu, that is the battle axe, which is being tied to a pole, and that is left on his left shoulder. This is the figure which is being represented as Shiva there. The face is seen with protruding eyes, well-defined eyebrows, long nose, thick lips, and the hair is thick and curly. Can you make out all that? It's got a beautiful eyes, long nose, thick lips, and the hair is also curly and rugged. He's got multiple armbands in the waist, wrist, and also in the hands. And he's also wearing a thick necklace and a heavy earrings on his ears. He is wearing a transparent dhoti around his waist, which clearly reveals his sexual organ. And the rest of the cloth is just hangs below his legs with multiple folds as drapery. Now, this is the representation of Shiva, or rather, in those days, it's called as Rudra. Look at that. He's standing on top of the Apasmara Purusha. The two legs are placed on the head of the Apasmara Purusha. The 3 foot, the Apasmara Purusha is almost 3 foot in height, and Shiva is standing on the shoulders of this Apasmara Purusha. Look at this Apasmara Purusha very closely. This Gana is a Shiva Gana again. The evil expression on his face, very ugly looking face. The eyes are jetting out. He is unable to bear the weight of Shiva who is standing on his shoulders, and his mouth is open, exposing his thin line of teeth. His hands are held to the side of the body, and his legs are barely visible. This is how the Apasmara Purusha is being represented as an ugly looking person. There has been much speculation about this male figure on the lingam. Some scholars say that it represents Rudra, the fiery form of Shiva. Some says it is Shiva, or it could be a hunter who is being depicted there. However, the absence of the third eye and the unerect phallus, and only represented with 2 arms, are left unexplained to say whether it is really a Shiva image. If we consider this as a hunter who came to offer the goat as a bali to this part of his worship, or the phallic form of Shiva which is there, the figure on which he is standing does not offer any explanation. Only Shiva stands on top of an Apasmara Purusha. So we can conclude this as a beautiful representation of Shiva in the Linga. Just as Mukha Linga we had it, this is a Linga with the Shiva in full form, which came into existence almost 2,500 years ago and was under worship, and it continues to be under worship even today. And this is the one and the only Linga of this kind which is available in our country. Now we come to the next temple of the Rayalaseema. It's called as Bugga Ramalingeshwara temple at Tadipatri. Tadipatri is a small town on the banks of Pennar River, about 80 kilometers from Anantapur in Andhra Pradesh. Now as you see this temple, this is the main entrance to this temple. When you see here, it looks like a fort wall with blocks of granite stones. It's been built. Actually, this is a dilapidated Gopuram. The beautiful architectural Gopuram that once existed here has been totally damaged, and just to give support for the balanced portion of this entire structure of Gopuram to remain intact, they have constructed this sort of a structure, and this is the main entrance to this temple. And this entrance is not facing the east. East of the temple is the river. The river Pennar River is flowing right in the east of the river, and this is the entrance to the south. And you have a similar entrance in the north also for this particular temple. This is how it looks with all the tree and the barren, and behind this you see is the Pennar River flowing. Now this is the temple of Bugga Ramalingeshwara at Tadipatri. As you walk through the Gopurams, they look incomplete and ruined, but we when we enter, we see designs of unparalleled sculptural beauty in this particular temple. Look at that. When we saw it, it was a dilapidated gopuram. As you enter it, you can see the sculptural beauty of this particular gopuram, a majestic gopuram that had once existed. Unfortunately, this temple was destroyed not by the invasion of the Mughals, but it was destroyed by the invasion of the Bahmani Sultans. After the fall of the Vijayanagar Empire, the Bahmani Sultans destroyed this temple to a very great extent, and whatever is remaining as of today, it's a masterpiece of architecture. This temple was built by a Dandanayaka under the Vijayanagar. He was called Veera Narasingha, and he was the governor of the Vijayanagar, and he built this temple in 1507. Look at that sculpture of the Yali rider on the pillar of the entrance to this temple. The other side of the gopuram. The first side, which we saw as the entrance side, was huge blocks of stone. The other side of the gopuram, can see how beautiful it is. Marvelous. It's absolutely amazing creation of sculptural beauty in this. You can see that every small place in this has been sculpted so wonderfully. It's built of green and gray granite blocks. And this is one of the most elaborately worked out gopurams that was constructed during the Vijayanagar period. I would say it was one of the best and the one and the only one of its kind. Now, as you see the basement of the temple has got some beautiful sculptures which is totally different from the other temples. Here, the base is beautifully decorated with arches, and inside the arches, a small miniature temples are created, and the murtis are kept there inside. Now, this is one of the main arches that you could see it. Look at the arch formation, the temple inside that, and the murti also, a Devi being seated here. It's an amazing work of architecture that you could see here. Look at that. What a beautiful creation of different levels of this gopuram. Multiple levels, they have beautifully done it. The upper basements are intricately carved with figures, including that of the donors, the pilasters, and the Kumbha Pancharas are the most ornate things that you could see here. Probably this is Veera Narasingha Deva who built this temple. His portrait image is seen there, and you see the Kumbha Panchara by the side, and the two pillars on either side of this Veera Narasingha Deva. Everything is beautifully designed. Look at the small figures on either side, the base on which he is standing, and the floral motifs that is seen below. Everything is so intricately done in wonderfully with hard granite material, and this is an outstanding contribution of the Vijayanagar period. As you enter inside, you just see on the either side of the gopuram, wonderful sculptural representations. The gopuram, which was probably built with bricks and mortar, was existing there at once upon a time. And there is a way to reach the top of the gopuram. That's what you see here. This is the way to go up to the gopuram. And those pillars are here. These pillars, what you see here, are beautifully decorated with beautiful images of Yali riders and Apsaras. And look at these beautiful corbel designs, amazingly wonderful designs of the corbel level. And today, this Gopuram is not there, and the whole sculptures are exposed to open sky. The elaborately designed pillars and the supporting sculptures of the maidens for holding lotus and the Yali riders are of outstanding beauty in this particular temple. Look at that Yali rider. Look at the way in which the Yali is being depicted. So beautiful. The eyes are bulging out. The mane is spread out well. The ear that is looking like a pig's ear is just spread out. And look at the intricate jewelry type of designs that is there on the body of the Yali and the Yali rider who is there on top of it. The way in which he is controlling the Yali, it's an amazing piece of architecture. Look at this, the floral designs that you could see on the sides. What a beautiful, very, very clearly and geometrically done floral designs on either side of this Yali riders. The door jambs, the main door, which was once existing, today there's nothing, no door jambs or anything. The door jambs are around there. They are fashioned very beautifully with so much of architectural elements filled with humans, floral patterns and other things. There's a floral pattern here, there's a Gandharva here, there's again a Yaksha here, again you have this, what do you call this, Annapakshis here, and again some other figure here. So everything has been arranged in such a wonderful manner that adds the beauty to the door jambs on either side of this. Very unusual depictions of the Dwarapalakas. Normally when you go into any Shiva temple, you will see the Dwarapalakas, huge Dwarapalakas standing like that. But here, these Dwarapalakas are depicted in a very, very different manner. They are dancing on top of a Makara. Makara is again a mystical creation which has got some elephant trunk, body of a crocodile and things like that. So these Dwarapalakas are dancing, not rigid like any other temples that you find them with the Tarjani Mudra or anything. They are happily dancing, welcoming you into the temple of Shiva. An amazing depiction of these Dwarapalakas is just one of its kind in this temple. Look at this. The door jambs are so beautifully decorated with floral motifs. The Ganga and Yamuna, normally the two celestial rivers, are represented at the entrance of every temple. They are represented as maidens holding the creepers, and the creeper goes with beautiful designs. The Ganga and Yamuna maidens holding the creepers are beautiful specimens of this temple. Now we see the close-up of that. Look at that. Look at the intricate work of the Annapakshi that is being done here. Every small feather in its body is being given detail. And the design, the floral design that you see above, and the creeper that goes like that, is amazing beauty. It's something phenomenal in this particular temple of Tadipatri. Now we'll see some of the most beautiful sculptural representations on the Gopuram. This is a beautiful Gopuram. On that side, you have lovely sculptural representations. What you see here is Bhikshadana form of Shiva. He's going down with his begging bowl, feeding his deer and walking up. Look at the intricate workmanship on the pillars on either side. The temple-like structure right above that, and the base, which is being held by a Gana and two leaping yalis on either side. The Kumbha Pancharas on either side of this pillar are also very elaborately sculpted. This is the image of Veerabhadra, again a beautiful representation of Veerabhadra. Look at this outstanding piece of Nataraja, Ananda Tandava of Nataraja. How beautifully it has been depicted there. Right above the Nataraja, you find the temple-like structure. On either side, you have the pillars. On the pillars, you have this Ganga and Jamuna there. And below that, you have the upper one, Bhutagana, holding the base on which the Nataraja is dancing, with two leaping yalis on either side. Look at the floral designs below that. They are also amazing. On either side of that, you have the Kumbha Pancharas, which are very elaborately and intricately being executed. Look at that. The close-up view of again a Bhikshadna. Look at the hair, the crown on top of the Bhikshadna, so intricately done. A masterpiece of creation. Look at this Ganesha. Normally, we have never seen a Ganesha like this, holding a bow and arrow. We knew that Ganesha went to a war against a demon and other things, but then he broke his tusk through it and killed him. But here, the Ganesha seen with the bow and arrow is something very unique and a very beautiful representation of Ganesha with a wonderful pot belly. You see, amazingly wonderful sculpture. Look at this. As you see it from here, you think it's a Devi sculpture, right? But it's not a Devi sculpture. We have seen Ardhanari form of Shiva. We have never seen an Ardhanari form of Vishnu.
Oi, what are you doing? Get down. Aida,
Hello, who is that?
get down.
Will
Get
you
down.
please mute yourself?
Get down.
You see this wonderful representation of Ardhanari form of Vishnu. On this side is Vishnu holding the chakra and his Abhay Hasta. This side Parvati, the Lakshmi is holding the Amrita Kalasa and the lotus flower on that. This side you see the breast of Lakshmi Devi and this full sari. And this side you see the beautiful representation of Vishnu. This is one and the only sculpture which I have come across as an Ardhanari form of Vishnu, which I have never seen it in any of the temples till today. It's a beautiful representation of Ardhanari form of Vishnu. Look at the sculptures on the different levels of the basement. Here you see Shiva, again another person rowing something like rowing a boat or digging out something. Look at this. Shiva is represented here. And down below is Veerabhadra, again holding a bow, arrow, and this khadgam, everything. And the temple-like sala structure. What a beautiful, intricate designs on either side of here. Everything is amazing. They have not spared a single inch in this temple. Everything is beautifully checked and designed with floral motifs and sculptural representations. Look at this. Again, a beautiful representation of Shiva, or rather I would say it is a Tripurantaka form of Shiva standing with a bow and arrow. Look at this. A Shiva seated there, and down below, this is Shiva in a dancing form. They are combined as one sculpture. Combined as hardly any gap between these two. Two different stones, but placed in such a position that they look like a combination sculpture. What a beautiful representation of Shiva, Nateshwara in a dancing pose. Look at that. Look at the intricacies of workmanship in that. Of course, the arms have been chopped, but still you can make out this is one of the most beautiful representation of Nateshwara form of Shiva that you could see here in this Tadipatri. Look at the big representation of Apasmara Purusha. Normally the Apasmara Purusha is shown very small in size, but here the Apasmara Purusha is shown very big. Look at the designs of Shiva. The drapery coming out of Shiva's costumes are shown in floral patterns. Amazing representation and jewelry-like designs on either side of that. Jewelry-like designs on either side of it. Look at this. Again, a beautiful representation, a rare form of Shiva called as Mahamrityunjaya. Shiva takes 2 pots of Amrita and he pours it on his head. And this is also broken, unfortunately. The very rare representation of Mahamrityunjaya in this particular temple. Look at this. Veenadhara form of Shiva, playing the Veena. Veenadhara Dakshinamurti, we have seen the same Veenadhara Dakshinamurti. And down below is Sadashiva Rupa. Shiva with 5 heads. Shiva with 5 heads and 10 arms. Sadashiva representation of Shiva here in this wonderful sculpture. Look at this. Again, a beautiful representation of Ganapati. This is called as Heramba Ganapati. In Devi cult and worship, Heramba Ganapati is invoked and worshipped. This Heramba Ganapati is represented with 5 heads and he is seated on a lion. Not the regular mouse, but he is seated on a lion. Heramba Ganapati, a very rare representation of Heramba Ganapati that you could see in this. All these sculptures are just hardly 1 foot to 1.5 foot, that's all. But they are spread across the entire basement of this temple, Gopuram, at different levels. Different levels, they have approached different sizes and amazingly studded with sculptural representation. The entire Gopuram base is sculpted. And above that, apart from these figures representing in different koshtas, you have the Kumbha Pancharas. Look at the Kumbha Pancharas, so intricately done. The Kumbha, the scene here, with the temple description on the top and the 2 pillars on the either side, and the designs below that at different levels. What an amazing workmanship. What an amazing workmanship. Look at the intricate designs at different levels. You have floral motifs, you have relief sculptures, you have sculptural representation of gods, Bhutaganas, everything at different levels. You can see right from this bottom level to the almost about 8 to 9 feet high. It is totally divided into different planes and everything is represented with sculptural representations of amazing beauty and quality. Look at that, the Kumbha Panchara. What an intricate representation of Kumbha Panchara. Look at the floral motifs coming out of the Kumbha. So beautiful, with sculptural representation all around. An amazing beauty of its own. Again, what we saw earlier, the base level, you have this wonderful representation of Devi being seated all over the bases. And in this temple, they've shown the sculpture of Veerabhadra above the Devi. You find the Veerabhadra sculpture right above the Devi. And if you see as a long view, this is how it looks. What a beautiful representation. What a beautiful representation of this Gopuram. Nowhere in this world you have a Gopuram which is so intricate, so artistic, and so beautifully represented.
அங்க அங்க இரும
Turi.
Look at this. Every base of that is so beautifully given as if the Ganas are holding it. Look at this, two Ganas on either side, and this Gana is showing his back and holding it up. How wonderfully and artistically and very tastefully they have done this. Look at this. Again, a warrior in dancing pose. There's another person playing the drum on either side. There are two people, two dwarfs playing the drums on either side. Warrior is doing his dance. And of course, we have some erotic sculptures also there. And there's again a beautiful representation of a lady. That lady is so beautiful. Three old men want her. They are all persuading her to come. One man has already surrendered her in her feet. What a beautiful representation of this, a comical episode here in this. You have Indra here, you have deer, so many hunt and lady huntress, and so many other sculptures. Every small inch has been sculpted with most very beautiful sculpture. This is the temple of Buggarama Lingeshwara as you enter inside. What you see here is the temple of Parvati here. And in that temple, you have the Rama image also there. So this is why it said Rama came and worshipped this Buggarama Lingeshwara. And that's why he gets the name Buggarama Lingeshwara. Bugga means it's a small hole in the ground. Buggarama Lingeshwara, the lingam erupted from that hole and Rama worshipped him. So he gets the name Buggarama Lingeshwara. Look at that temple, a beautiful representation in black granite stone. Very well polished. And look at the intricate outer wall of the sanctum. So beautifully done. Right from the bottom to the top, it's total granite structure and very beautifully decorated with floral and other elements of architecture. Look at the yali. The yali is so beautiful. The pillars do have the design of yali and so many other apsaras also. Unfortunately, they have been defaced, and by the looks of it, it should have been a majestic sculpture. The way in which the ornamentation is being done for our hip decoration shows this should have been one of the most wonderful apsaras being represented there. And you have the musical pillars. These musical pillars are also there in the Devi Shrine. And look at the roof. So beautifully done. Normally, these type of roofs are seen in the Hoysala temples, where they have done it with soft stones. But doing a roof like this with a dome, so intricate in granite, is something which is never heard of, which we see in this wonderful temple of Buggarama Lingeshwara. Now we come to the next temple again in this Tadipatri. It is called as Chintala Venkatramana Swami Temple. This temple was built by Pennaswamy Timmaya, a subordinate of Krishnadevaraya in 1510 to 1525. He built this wonderful temple. This is the wonderful temple of Chintala Venkatramana Swami Temple. This is the main entrance to this temple. As you go in, you find a beautiful stone chariot. This is the Garuda Mandapam, built in the form of a chariot with 4 wheels. The wheels can be rotated, and the entire thing looks so beautiful, very similar to that of what we see in the Hampi Garuda Mandapam. It's full granite structure. Hampi, they had a brick structure above, but here it's totally a granite structure. Very much on the Vittala temple of Hampi, very much lying on the same lines. Look at this. This chariot is standing on a stone base. And this is the Sannidhi of Garuda right in front of the Venkatramana. And the Balipeetham is here below, before that. And the entire structure is done with a polished granite. Look at this Mahamantapam of this same temple, Chintala Venkatramana Swami. This has been decorated with wonderful pillars of Yali riders, an amazing work of architecture. One thing which is very, very touching, which I saw in this temple, I went on a weekday to this temple, and there was hardly 11 o'clock, they closed this temple. After 11, and once in a week, they pump water and clean the temple. They are employed to clean the temple so that the temple remains spick and span. We have to learn a lot from here, how to keep the temple so neat. 11 o'clock, the temple closes, and after that, they completely spray water. It's not a jet wash, just a water, pressured water, and they clean the entire temple, and they keep it spick and span without dust or oil, anything on the sculptures. Look at the Yali riders. And these are the wonderful Deepalakshmis or Apsaras, whatever you call them. They are amazingly beautiful. The way in which they have been dressed with the ornaments and the drapery of the dress, the jewelry, everything is of amazing quality and beauty. And they are holding lamps, fly whisks, and also flowers in their hands. Look at this. Amazing beauty. There are almost about 60 apsaras all around this temple. The different style of hairstyle, the jewelry, dress are so very intricate and elaborate and very beautifully fitted into the molded pillars of this temple. Finely molded pillars of this temple. Look at this. This is the sanctum wall of the temple. The sanctum wall is beautifully divided into 3 rows. Stories of Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Bhagavata are given in 1 row. So once you go for 3 pradakshinas, first pradakshina you can learn Ramayana, see Ramayana sculptures. Second pradakshina you can see Mahabharata. Third pradakshina you can see Bhagavata. So if you make a 3 pradakshinas around the sanctum, you can see the entire epic being depicted in the sculptural representation of amazing beauty and quality. Look at this. You can make out all the sculptures of Ramayana. Hanuman giving that Kanyali to Sita Devi. Here again some of the sculptures. All these sculptures of Ramayana are seen here. And between this Venkatramana temple and the Almelmanga temple, they are joined by a vestibule together. And in that enclosure, you have a beautiful small stone temple. Amazingly beautiful, very intricately done. And this is the Sayana Mantapa, which was used as Palliyare in those days. Every day the Lord's Murtis will come here for Sayana. A very beautiful representation of the Sayana Mantapam. Look at that. All made of total granite and in polished condition, with all sculptural representation. Look at the base. Wonderfully decorated base. Again, this is Tayar Sannidhi. The Tayar Sannidhi is just on a base platform. Finely molded Adhisthana. Look at the Adhisthana. It's so beautifully molded, and the very elaborate, the koshtas and the Kumbha Pancharas, everything is so beautiful here. The roof is so wonderfully depicted. To make it look real, they sculpted the images of monkeys, lizards, everything on top of the roof. They're playing along with Ganas there. What a beautiful representation of the roof of the Tayar Sannidhi here. These two artistic temples of Tadipatri are executed to the perfection, which is talks volume of the sculptural beauty and the architectural masterpieces of the Vijayanagar era in Rayalaseema. Now we come to the next one, Lepakshi. When you see this Nandi, you can immediately make out it's Lepakshi. It's the world's biggest Nandi, made out of single monolithic Nandi, made out of a living stone. Look at that beautiful Nandi. Lepakshi, very beautiful monolithic Nandi, sculpted out of a single piece of living rock. Very beautiful. Now, Lepakshi is a small town that is located at the southern end of the Rayalaseema part, very close to Bangalore. And here, the temple is dedicated to Veerabhadra. And this temple is just built on a crop of granite hilla, which is called as Kurmashila. It is not on a regular plain platform, but as the hill has got the ups and downs, the entire structure is built like that on the top of the hill, having the surface of the hill as the floor for this temple. And this is a temple dedicated to Veerabhadra. Very uneven surface of the rock formation is seen in, that's why you see the temples in different levels. The entrance to the temple, basically built to satisfy the Veera Saiva cult, which is very popular in that area of Karnataka, which is also forming a part of this Rayalaseema area once upon a time. This is the Veerabhadra inside the temple. Huge Veerabhadra. He is also known as Shiva or Shivakumara. There are also many other small shrines for Shiva and Parvati and a lot of mandapams all around this temple. This temple is credited to Virupanna, the governor of Penukonda, and his brother Veeranna. During the time of Achyuta Devaraya, they had built this temple in 16th century. Look at this monolithic. The rock formation, I said, every rock formation, they have utilized it so beautifully. One such rock formation, they have sculpted out a bas relief of Ganesha there and brought out a mandapam in front of them. And this is the Nagalinga. Again, a rock formation is converted as a Naga, Sarpa, with coils down below, and the Linga is planted on top of it. That's called as Nagalinga. If you see this Nandi, which we saw earlier, is almost about 1 kilometer away from this temple. And that Nandi is placed in an axis to this Nagalinga. The entire Nandi is in axis with this Nagalinga. So they say this Nagalinga was created for that Nandi, or Nandi was created for the Nagalinga, is a question of debate. Look at this. This is just sculpted out of the living rock. This is the unfinished Kalyana Mandapam with very, very intricate and ornate pillars, which is very typical of the Vijayanagar style of architecture. The roof is incomplete, and it's just left incomplete. This is again the sculptures, presentations in the pillars of this temple. Shiva, again Sadashiva form of Shiva. Again Shiva and Parvati in marriage, darshan after marriage. Look at the Nandi. What a majestic Nandi it is. Standing Nandi. Such wonderful representations are there. Inside the Mahamandapam, it's an amazing beauty of sculptures. This is Nataraja, of course, it's been dilapidated totally. You have a beautiful representation of Bhikshadana form of Shiva, again in the typical Vijayanagar style, a dancer. And this temple, Mahamandapam, has got about 60 pillars. One pillar is very unique. Now, this is the pillar. When you see this pillar, you will think what is unique in this particular pillar, which looks like very other normal pillar. But normally pillars are bound to the ground, but this pillar is hung from the top. There is a gap between this floor and this pillar, which is only 1 mm. The gap between the pillar and the floor is just 1 mm. Look at this. If you spread a sheet of cloth, paper, or anything, it goes through that, and you can see that. The entire sheet of cloth just goes through the pillar. This pillar is suspended from the top, and there's a small gap. What a marvel of architecture they have done it. So beauty of this Lipakshi. And this temple has got some wonderful mural paintings also, depicting scenes from Mahabharata, Ramayana and Shiva Purana basically. A lot of these mural paintings are of amazing quality. Of course, some of them have been restored now. Look at this. Look at the ladies. All these ladies are shown with beautiful saris, with wonderful designs in these saris, the hairstyles, everything depicting of that period. And look at the floral designs. These floral designs are used today, even today, copied from here in this temple in the Kalamkari works of Kalamkari dresses, whatever you got. You get it here? They are all copied, the designs are copied from Lipakshi temple. Can you make out? A very simple Kalamkari design of dress materials that you get it here are all copied from this temple of Lipakshi, which is a 16th century vegetable dye painting. These are all the paintings unique to this temple of Lipakshi. Now we come to Yaganti Uma Maheshwara temple. Yaganti is again a beautiful Shiva temple located about 80 kilometers from Kurnool. This is on top of a hill. This is a very beautiful temple dedicated to Uma Maheshwara. Shiva and Parvati in the form of a linga. The left side of the linga is dedicated to Uma, and the right side of the linga is dedicated to Shiva. One side it is smeared totally with ash, and the other side it's totally smeared with turmeric powder. So they call it as Uma Maheshwara Shilarupam. This is located on top of a beautiful hill. The hill itself is very serene and very beautiful, and there are a number of gopuras and lovely steps that lead to this wonderful temple of Yaganti Uma Maheshwara. And this Yaganti hills have got natural caves everywhere. There are about 5-6 caves all over these places. 2-3 of them are very important. One is known as Agastya Cave. and this one is known as Venkatramana cave. It is said that Agastya prayed here and he wanted to install the image of Venkatramana at Tirupati. He got this image made here. Unfortunately, when he made this image here, there was some small binna in the toe of the Venkateshwara that he made. So he could not take it to Tirupati. He left it here, I believe. So there's a huge image of Venkatramana Swami inside this cave. And there is again another cave there, which is said to be the place where Agastya worshipped Shiva there. And all these things can be reached by flight of steps, and it's quite steep. And 100, 200 steps you'll have to climb from different directions and go that. It's beautifully done. An amazing place to see is Yaganti. And the beauty of this temple is that there's a Nandi in front of this Yaganti Uma Maheshwara. This Nandi is supposed to be growing in size every year. The Nandi, which was kept small inside the place of the temple, now it has outgrown its size. So it's almost spread throughout, touching on two of the pillars on either side. They believe this Nandi is growing, and once the Nandi reaches the top level of the Mantapa, the world will come to an end. That's all they say. I do not know how far it is true, but then they say Nandi keeps growing even today, and people worship this Nandi very much. Look at this. The structure has been altered to accommodate this growing Nandi every now and then. The beauty of this particular Yaganti temple is the Koneru. The Koneru is nothing but a pond in front of the Shiva temple. The water from the hills are collected through channels and brought out to this tank, and the water flows through the mouth of a Nandi and fills up the tank. The time when I went, the water was totally, pumped out, and they were cleaning this place. Otherwise, normally the water is there up to the brim level. And people come take bath in this holy water and then go and worship this. There's a beautiful Koneru with mantapams all around and with sculptural representations all over the places. And this is the place where you can see the Nandi here. This is the Nandi's mouth. The water flows through this. The entire rainwater harvested from the hills are brought out through channels, and it flows through the Nandi's mouth and fills the tank. Amazing beauty, and this water tank is supposed to be the best feature of this Yaganti temple. A lot of sculptural representations are there in this different levels of the steps in this Yaganti temple also. Rayalaseema was the main center for Hindu pilgrimages for Tirumala, Tirupati, Kalahasti, Ahobilam, Srisailam, everything. Vijayanagar kings have renovated these holy places and extended as huge temple complexes. The temples of Tadipatri, Lepakshi, Yaganti are excellent specimens of Dravidian architecture. Less known temples, very, very less known temples to the world, but they are a worthy place to visit. Thank you. Thank you very much.